There's modern day miracles right before us. There are tough things that are happening. And no matter what you're going through, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. I want you to know that. Neurosurgeon told us, he said, look, we're going to go in there. We're going to have to remove that vertebrae. It's completely done. And he said, most likely your daughter will not walk again. But I have people tell me all the time, I can't believe how lucky she was. And I say, no, you're wrong. She was not lucky. She was extremely blessed. She is a miracle.
Welcome in to another Kia David podcast here on Zion Media. Excuse my voice. I'm losing my voice. I was down actually yesterday in Colorado City, and fascinating experience. I'm not going to get into it here on today's podcast, but boy, am I glad to be back home, and I'll leave it there. I'm joined by David the Lion Douglas. Trevor the Key Keys has an excused absence today. He is busy conquering Babylon. And we are joined by Jason. Now, Jason, remind me your last name.
Arfman.
Arfman, that's right. Jason Arfman. And we've got an amazing story for you. I met Jason a few weeks back. He has an amazing business. We're going to talk about his business. But we were standing out my driveway and we were talking about the power of the priesthood. And he told me a story that nearly brought me to tears. And I just said, Jason, I got to have you on the podcast. I got to have you tell this story. I need our armies of Helaman, our priesthood holders, to understand the power that they hold and the power of the priesthood. And I think your story certainly inspired me to remember the power that we all have in the priesthood. So with that, Jason, welcome to Zion Media. Welcome to the show. Let's start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself. I know you're LDS, but I want to get into like your life story so everybody kind of understands who you are. Talk a little bit about the mission, and then let's talk a little bit about your career.
Perfect. Yeah. Good to be here. Thank you, Shane, for having me. And it was great getting to know you and meet you and just have these amazing conversations. And I appreciate you having me on today. I grew up in a little town called Salmon, Idaho. It's in the trigger of Idaho. It's a beautiful place surrounded by mountains. And grew up there my whole life. And I really learned a lot of great things. I had a great mentor. My father was a great mentor to me. Um, and from a very young age, I started doing things as a business person because my dad owned a clothing store up there. One of the first jobs I had was exporting shrink to fit 501 jeans over into Japan to some of our exchange student friends, Aki and Yoshi, over in Tokyo. And as some of my earliest memories of just understanding what hard work looks like, what entrepreneurship looks like, and later we ended up buying a snow cone business and worked that my entire, through junior high and high school. And just grew up with amazing people, spent a lot of time in the mountains, a lot of time, building my faith and my testimony in this little town of Salmon. And I hadn't gotten out much. The first time I got really into international travel was when I went on my mission to Nicaragua. And, I was one of, they were counting them then. I was the 83rd missionary back in since the Revolutionary War. And,
Wow. So you showed up right after the Revolutionary. Tell us a little bit about like what that was like.
yeah, it was, it was interesting because even in my patriarchal blessing, it said, you'll be able to serve a mission and be able to touch the lives of people who have been hard to reach for quite some time. And so
Wow.
I saw my own patriarchal blessing, coming into play into Nicaragua. And when I arrived, I had no idea. I didn't understand that, it was the Contras and the Sandinistas all fighting together. this was in the 80s, and it was ending coming into the 90s. It was a 10 years of battle, and I ended up serving my mission. I went in 94 to 96. And so I was on the tail end of that, right? And before that, they only had, the Latino missionaries in there. And it was an experience, man, I'll tell you. Like, I literally felt like angels' arms were wrapped around me multiple times as I felt the protection. Um, and we just watched the work just grow. When I first arrived, there was 74 missionaries and not a lot of um, elders from the United States. Now we gained more over time, but boy, we saw the church just explode. We went from nucleos or satellite meetings where we were meeting for 1 hour in members' homes, to then branches, to launching two new stakes by the time I left. And, again, we went from baptizing, 70 to 100 people a month with 74 missionaries to, by the end of my mission, we were baptizing around 600 a month with about 130 missionaries.
Wow.
So
Were
we really
you
saw
were
the
you
work just
using
grow.
were you using the discussions during your mission? Was it the
Yes.
discussions? Okay, that's how
Yeah.
it was in
Yeah.
those were gangster. You memorize those, get those suckers down, and then, add your own, mojo to it. Yeah, I like those. I mean, I've been through preach my gospel. Maybe I'm just old school, but I kinda think those discussions back in the day did a lot of damage across the world, brought a lot of people to Christ.
Yeah, there was boy, we saw so many families that just saw the importance of the gospel in their lives. And we had Elder Murin. He was at one time the mission president in Nicaragua, and he is at the time a 70 area 70 over a mission, and he remembers getting held at gunpoint and being removed from the country. And chapels were taken over by the government, and we saw many chapels with bullet holes in them. And to watch it go from what it was to the blessings they had after they started accepting the gospel was absolutely incredible. Um, so and now, there's obviously a temple being built there, which I'm excited to go back and visit when they have, the open house and the dedication. So, it's amazing to me because at the time, we were raising money on my mission to help send people all the way to Guatemala on a 2-day journey, to go to the temple and do that. And now
Wow.
you see a temple being built there, today with multiple stakes and a lot of great members of the church down there. So, pretty awesome to see the work of the Lord, happening and watch it unfold over time.
Cool. And so you get home from your mission, did you have a girl writing you, or what was the
I
plan when you
did,
got home?
I did. We wrote the whole time. We never did get, married. We went our different ways after I got home, and that was okay. They're good friends, and came home, went to studying business, jumped into, looking at ways to get back into the business world. Met my wife, that she was just amazing. Met her at BYU, and we had, a very short, courtship because when we knew, we knew. She was right.
I
She was
hear you.
from here in Idaho. She had an amazing family, and we just had the same goals. And we ended up buying a franchise, um, before we even officially got married. And then, when we came home off our honeymoon, literally the Monday after we came home off our honeymoon, we opened that franchise. It was a Zuka Juice franchise, later merged with Jamba Juice, which
Oh, I remember Zuka Juice, dude.
yeah.
I had a
They've got
Zuka
they've
Juice
got from the
in,
boy from BYU.
yeah, I had a Zuka Juice right by Weber State, which was where I lived in South Ogden, and I used to go to Zuka Juice in 1998, and, yeah, listen to Backstreet Boys at Zuka Juice. It was the best.
I love
I always
Remnants
remember,
of
man.
people. So, yeah, it was great. And we've just, now we have, 4 daughters. My brother actually runs the Jamba Juices now. He has multiple across, Southeast Idaho. And, I started getting into the business of, direct selling. I loved the model. It was kinda like a franchise model, so I started doing that. I've done a lot of international travel. I've literally traveled to been to Singapore 22 times and all in every European country. Um, and I just love the concept of people helping people, right? And building a community. And, I kind of learned that from a small town. In a small town, you rely on that community 100%. And people shop there to support the local community. They shop there because you're friends, and they shop there because they want to support you. And then in return, I remember my dad would never buy a car out of town. He always supported local dealerships, and that's really what this whole concept of member to member direct selling marketing was all about. And 8.5 years ago, I looked at an opportunity to do what we're doing right now, and that's look at how can we get more gold and silver into the hands of more people than ever before. And we looked at it and we said, look, here's an industry that's been proven. It's been around for literally centuries. We can go back to biblical times and see that gold and silver was used back in biblical times, and we know that if you look at what is the difference between currency and real money, we know that real money is gold and silver. It's God's money, right? It's been talked about. It comes out of the earth. Um, it's been a staple. You can't fake it. You can't print, you know, X amount of gold or silver. You have to go after it. It's used in all kinds of technology. It's used in solar panels and medical instruments and
Cell
everything.
phones.
What's that? Cell phones?
So
Yeah.
it's used in cell phones.
Cell phones, television, you name it, right? It's everywhere. So this concept of precious metals, I was like, how do we get into that? And so, been around this industry of direct selling for a long time, and I said, let's go do this the right way. Let's transform this industry. Let's do it the right way. Let's be a champion of the little guy. Let's help the average people make above average income, and let's help more people get gold and silver into their hands than ever before. And we set out to do that 8.5 years ago. We pulled technology into it. We're doing things that other companies have not even thought of, and because of that, we have literally, tens of thousands of people around the world. We're in all states in the United States. We're currently in 26, I think, international countries. If you're counting all the European countries we're in, we're just taking off. We're in Canada and Europe, and we've got just people being helped around the world. And really, that's my life in a nutshell, right? I love my family. I've got four amazing daughters and two son-in-laws that have come along this journey. They support me 100%. And you know, it's amazing because I get to meet people like you, Shane. When we sat down and had this discussion, we had a great connection, and you saw the need for it, and it's awesome to have something where we can help the masses and really help people understand the power that they have within, and the understand that there's modern day miracles right before us, right? And if we need to change our stance, and doesn't matter about the hard things we're going, everybody's going through hard things, especially
Right.
over in the economy and what's happening around the world. There are tough things that are happening, and no matter what you're going through, um, it feels dark for a while, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. I want you to know that. And the thing I love is we know that we've got uh, you know a loving heavenly Father that loves us. He's never going to leave us, and I know he's in our lives at all times, and he really helps us get through those tough times. And all of us go through them, myself included. And so,
So so tell me a little bit about, because I'm curious, and we really didn't get into this. And I want to spend a little time there before we jump into this miracle story that we'll talk about. Tell me a little bit about. I think you're the CEO of 7K Metals. I've been to your corporate facility. We're going to be launching something here at Zion Media because it's my opinion that if I can help somebody make a couple extra $1,000 a month, that's a big deal given inflation. And when I was in prison, you always had to have a side hustle. So, like when I was in prison, I had a store. You could buy things at like the commissary, but not everybody had money that week. So they would come to my store, I would give them what they need, and then they would pay me back the following week plus interest. That was my side hustle. And so we all need a little side hustle, you know? And so I view this opportunity as a unique side hustle. And for me, I've seen so many people that have been involved in direct selling and they're ordering pills or powders or potions. and they don't even actually use it. It just piles up in their garage and it takes the place of their car because they have no room in their garage. When I looked at this, I'm like, you can never have too much gold and silver. That's always going to be a good thing to be stacking up. And so it's the first time in my life that I've been hit up by everybody and their dog to do some multi level, some direct selling, something. Every time I look at it, it's a pill, a powder, a potion. This is the first time I saw something where it's none of that. It's like precious metals, which is
Yeah.
totally unique. I don't know if you're the only one in the industry, only one doing precious metals in this way, but I just want to get some background and overview of what the company is, why you decided to do this, what your role is at 7K, and then we'll jump into the spiritual stuff. We're going to cover the hopefully the Babylon stuff. And unfortunately, we have to be in the world, not of the world. So we got to come up with a way to create passive income so that we can spend our time in the scriptures. And that's like my goal. It's like, how do I free up time so I can serve others, so I can read the scriptures, so I can spend more time with family on the things that matter most? Because the only things we get to take with us is our memories. We don't get to take anything else with us. And all the time that we spent working some job, if we can find a way to not go work that job and find a way to make some passive income, it allows us time to create memories with those that we love and memories with our Heavenly Father as we study the scriptures. So go ahead and fire away.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Um, good discussions here. And you look at a side hustle that is built on real world assets, right? Everybody is hearing right now, like we're hearing in the news right now, they're gonna go audit Fort Knox, right? They're gonna go look and see what gold is in there that at
Really?
one point in the United States, gold backed the US currency, silver backed the US currency, right? That was what we see all over the world. And we know that. And we know that in 1971 there was a temporary suspension on the gold standard. And if
That's
you
right.
look at what happened since then, right? The dollar has continually dropped. And we're seeing things right now that's coming out in the world that's talking about inflation. We've seen highest inflation we've seen in the last, decades. And why is that? It's because government is printing money, just unfathered. They're just printing as much as they want to print. And we said, what can we do to help people, average people out there, to be winning in the buying of gold and silver? Because the wealthy families of the world are doing it. The wealthy families are buying gold and silver, they're buying assets, um, and they're hedging against inflation, and they're doing this to help them have bigger buying power in the future. And so that is really what we wanted to set out to do, is help, you know, all families around the world, regardless of your budget, to be able to come in and be able to buy gold and silver. Now, gold's just hit an all-time high, 3,000 an ounce, right? Who would have thought when we started this company, 8.5 years ago, gold was at just under 1,200 an ounce. Now it's 3,000 an ounce. I mean, everybody who bought back then is super happy they have gold and silver today because their buying power has been increased. So the thing we wanted to do though is we knew that there was a challenge, right? Even at 1,200 an ounce, a lot of people couldn't afford 1,200 an ounce. And so one of the most popular things to buy was these little grams of break off gold, right? The challenge with the little break off gold is they carried very high premiums because, it was harder to make than 1 ounce of gold. And so what we said, let's set out and let's do something different. And so we've used technology. We've built something incredible, which we call Sound Money Wallet. Sound money just meaning precious metals, gold and silver. Gold and silver is not subject to inflation. It's it helps everybody to have more buying power later down the road. So, um, we know people that have been doing this for years. We know that Larry H. Miller, even right there in Utah, right, owner of the Utah Jazz, he had a large amounts of gold and silver and collectible coins that he actually just recently auctioned off at a heritage auction. Is building a new hospital in Lehi, Utah. It was in KSL News recently. And so we see wealthy families doing this. We said, how do we help every single family do this? And so that's what we're here for. We use technology to help people buy fractionally, help them buy fractionally and get access to gold and silver on any budget. And I know that's what really caught your interest, Shane, is you're
Right.
like, hey, this is something because it doesn't matter if you only have $10 a month. If that's all you have to buy gold and silver with, you're buying a precious metal asset. And it's stored physically. And by the way, you can when you buy it, you can actually liquidate it at any time, touch of a button when you want to. You're in full control of it. And with the highest buyback price in the entire industry, right? And so we know we're doing things different than most gold and silver companies out there. Yes, you can go buy bullion at any, there's lots of retail places you can go buy gold and silver. But there's very few places where you can go buy it fractionally, have it 100% backed in a private vault, stored for you, insured, and literally liquidation at the touch of a button. Real-time liquidation. Because those were the big questions when we were talking to a lot of people. They're like, "Well, I know I should buy gold and silver. I don't know where to buy it from. I don't know who to trust. And then what do I do with it when I get it?" Like, that's what all these millennials are saying. They're like, "What do I do with gold and silver? I can't go buy a car, right?" But here's the amazing thing. If they would have stored gold and silver over years versus storing money, like currency, real money is gold and silver. Currency is just the paper, right? It's just our the US dollar. And you look at it when I back in the '70s when I was born, average incomes were like $4,000 a year, right? And
Yeah,
my dad my dad purchased a brand new Mustang off of a Ford lot for $2,800 to take my mom back to down to BYU because his car broke down. He bought a car off of a Ford dealer lot for $2,800. Okay. Now, if you think about that, if you would have been saving cash, currency, US dollars, you would have saved $2,800 from 1968 when my dad bought that brand new Mustang all the way till today. If you would have put that, you would have maybe earned a little bit of interest. But here's the crazy thing. If you would have bought gold and silver instead of a car, and you would have had assets there, and all you did is hold on to those assets, and it was bought in silver because back then a dollar was worth 1 ounce of silver. You would have close to 80, $90,000 worth today of silver. And so the buying power of having gold and silver is amazing. And really the most important is owning it physically, not on paper stock, not in the stock market, but owning it physically. And so that's what we set out to do, Shane. We set out to help people do that. And by the way, we even help people earn free gold and silver. For every person who refers a new member to us, we give them instant gold pay of 20 or $80 depending on the membership they come in with. How amazing was
that's
that?
basic.
Yeah, go ahead.
I I I was impressed with what you said at the beginning, about how, right now the wealthy are collecting gold and silver. They're creating their wealth right now. And I love what you just said there. I wonder, what would you say is the probably biggest misconception people have, in regards to, wealth building with, precious metals?
Yeah, a lot of people have been taught, save your money in a bank account, save your money in somewhere else, right? You shouldn't be buying assets. And we do see some misconceptions on people saying, "Yeah, I bought gold and silver on the stock market and it hasn't done as well as some other stocks." Right? We see that all the time. And we a perfect example of this was during the pandemic, right? Silver was at 18 a spot price of $18, but it dropped right at the beginning of the pandemic down to $11. And anybody who held silver stock was very upset, right? They're like, "Man, I took a hit because you saw these tech companies selling off their silver stock." That's just manipulation, right? What we saw at the same time, anybody who held physical silver, so spot price at the time was around 18, so you were buying silver physical silver for right around $20 because there's some things on there with, premiums on top of your spot price for the physical stuff, right? And that's what protects the physical. Well, we saw the opposite happen on whoever owned physical silver. They didn't see a drop. They went from $20 an ounce to $26 an ounce. And so we saw this big anybody who was holding physical, they were happy. And so that's the misconceptions we see is some people say, silver and gold, they're only looking at spot price. They're not
Well,
looking at what is it.
isn't it a, recession, like, proof, wealth? Or, like, it's one of those things that people are gonna always need regardless of what period of time, right? Or there's
Yeah,
always a back.
Yeah, you can see the track record of gold and silver over the last 500 years, right? You can even take it back 100 years, even take it back 30, 40 years. It has been on a constant increase. Yes, it has dips. Yes, it has bigger increases. But if you look at the overall line, gold and silver it's never gone to zero. We know stocks that have gone to zero. We know cryptocurrency that's gone to zero, but we don't know gold and silver has never gone to zero because it's real physical precious metal, right? So yeah, I think a lot of the misconceptions are that, right? They've been taught by the banks. They've been taught incorrectly. I've always been taught you better be having your money in assets, never hold it in the bank, right? Because your dollar continues to lose value. Um, we Everybody calls it inflation, but I call it devaluing of the dollar, right? Our dollar buys less. I remember back in high school, I could buy a soda for 25 cents. You can't buy a soda today for 25 cents. It's just your buying power has gone down, but the buying power of gold and silver has not dropped. 1 ounce of silver still buys what it could buy 50 years ago. 1 ounce of gold can still buy what if not more, right? And so that's really the difference. And I think, there was a time where the government actually confiscated and made it illegal for citizens to actually own gold and silver. Why? Because we were on the gold standard and they needed it and it was rare. And so they made it illegal. And I think some of our grandparents kind of were it was almost like ingrained into their brain, hey, now because the government said it was illegal to own it, um, we shouldn't own it. And so I think we're seeing a gap of people not being educated on why they should own real world assets, right? Um, I've always been taught assets are king, right? Whether it be real estate, whether it be gold and silver, you need to be owning assets. That's what my grandpa taught me. He said, one time I had $2,000 in the bank and he scolded me. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "That's why I bought the snow cone business when I was little, right?" Because he's like, "Don't hold money in the bank. Get into an asset,
Right.
get into business, get into something you can cash flow." And the nice thing about gold and silver, it's something that everybody can afford, and it has the easiest liquidity on the planet. You can liquidate it so easy around the world.
One more question. And it's all right. I didn't mean to cut you off at the end because I totally agree with you on that. I was wondering, as the CEO, what kind of trends do you see with customers or maybe even distributors when they're, making their own personal wealth strategy? Like, do you see habits? Are they just collecting the precious metals, or are they doing anything with them?
Oh,
So
no.
I'll ask the mic.
So yeah, that's a great question. So our whole mission has been not to go to the gold and silver buying world and say, "Hey, let's convert you to our model." What we did is we said we want to educate and we want to help new people to understand the power of collecting and stacking. Okay? So that's what we're doing. Like we literally have a buyer certification and a collector certification. We do two things. We allow people to buy fractionally and we allow people to buy the most amazing, cool collectible coins on the planet. And that's what we do because we can win there all day. We're beating the competition every single day. What we're seeing is we're seeing people coming back to us. We're seeing people that come just to buy a little bit and they're like, "I don't want to refer any members. I don't want to tell my friends and family about this." But they get so excited because all of a sudden they now have for the first time maybe in a long time their savings account is in real world, in real assets in gold and silver. Um, we see people that come back to us and say, "Man, after a year, I now have the biggest savings account I've ever had, and the thing I'm buying every month is an asset. It can be liquidated at any time." Um, and you know, and on top of that, then all of a sudden they said, "I came to collect and stack, but I couldn't help to refer my friends and family to this as well because I love it so much and I want them to be doing the same thing." So when knowledge is brought in and when education is brought in and the people are empowered, we see great things happen. We don't have to go out and hard sell anybody on this. All we're doing is educating the people, and the people just can't help but talking about it. And then all of a sudden they're saying, "Hey, I now have, $500 in free gold here. What happened?" "Yeah, that was for your referrals." And then on top of that, we send them a thank you check, for all the purchases that their customers are buying. And so, we have a whole wealth strategy that we talk about, right? We even have your money management. We're in the process of helping people get out of debt, think differently about what does it mean to own assets. And so the trend we're seeing is we're creating more collectors than any other company out there. We're we're
So
creating the
you're more just collecting an asset building, but you're educating people on how to overcome debt and be able to change that, I guess the generational struggle that people sometimes have.
That's right.
Plus, you get cool stuff like this. Like, this is so cool.
One of
Well,
my favorites.
Like,
when we went out there, I think we bought, I don't know, I know exactly how much. It was $3,130 worth of gold and silver. And so we came back with our own little treasure trove. One of the things that I loved about their office is it's not pretentious. It's not like these guys are good stewards. They have good hearts. They aren't driving Lambos and smoking cigars. They're regular guys running a regular business in a regular nice facility, but not like crazy, like you see maybe down in Utah County. And I also like the fact that it wasn't in Utah County. Nothing against you guys down there in Utah County, but sometimes Utah County can be a little bit pretentious. Up in Idaho Falls, I think you get, some of the salt of the earth kind of people. And so I just appreciated that. We had great meetings with some of your other guys. Just we went out to lunch. It was cool to go and see the facility and just get a feel for what 7K is all about. And in my mind, 7K is about trying to help the average person um, make an above average income. And that's like the goal and the mission behind the company, which I love.
Yep. And you think about it, Shane, an extra $500 or $1,000 to a family right now. It's massive, right?
It's a big
It's
deal.
paying grocery bills. It's helping them cover emergencies. It's helping them, potentially pay down some debt. Um, it is huge, and that is very, very doable for anybody who puts a little bit of effort in to get to a $500 to $1,000 a month. We know lots of people. My parents just went into retirement, and they said, an extra $1,000 a month right now would be huge. And so, it's big, and we have a lot of opportunity to help a lot of families in a lot of different ways. So I agree with you. There's a lot that can be done, and we're out there to help the masses to be able to earn. And we're really looking for the non-professionals, right? You don't have to be a professional in this. We have all the tools to help people and to be able to really just take off and share this with as many people as possible.
Love it. Hey, and we're going to be coming out with a lot more stuff with everything that Zion Media is doing with 7K. This is kind of an intro. But if you are interested in knowing what we're doing, David, are you going to make like a special little sheet that we're actually going to follow up on, or no? Because if we're going to make a special sheet and you're not going to follow up on it, then don't make one.
we have form, right?
Our contact. Yeah, form. I don't know what we do. Sometimes we make these forms and then we forget to follow up on it. So make a special one for 7K, and then assign somebody. It's their job on our team to look at it. If you have interest, we can talk to you a little bit about what we're doing with 7K and how we're helping people build a small business doing that. Okay, let's go ahead and transition to, now that we've covered Babylon, let's cover Zion. Let's shift our focus to the spiritual. And Jason, you shared with me a story about your daughter, and
Yeah.
I love our viewers. We're going to go big frame on you as you share this story because it is a very powerful story. But give us the. I'm just going to turn it over to you. Just tell the story like you told me in my driveway.
All right. Well, um, boy, and sometimes I get a little emotional here on this because I'm talking about my daughters. I'm a girl dad, and you can see them back behind me right here, right? Oh, it's right here. It's kind of weird on the camera, but it's this daughter right here. She's the closest that daughter that we're going to be talking about today, and this is the morning of December 7th, 2022. I'm walking into a board meeting, and I get probably one of the worst phone calls I've ever received from my wife. And she said that our daughter Ava, who's our third daughter, had left our house and about 200 yards from our house, had completely totaled her car, and she'd been ejected. Um, and she didn't know if she was going to live. Okay. Um, and I heard the fear in my wife's voice like I'd never heard it before. She hit black ice, you guys. She ended up going end over end. Luckily, she was ejected because, the impact on the roof of the vehicle would have killed her. Um, and we saw so many miracles that came out of this. Um, she laid in the field, in a plowed field that was literally our family's field. We have farmland out there, and, she laid in that field for about 20 minutes before she was found. It was a the morning before on December 6th, it was raining, and I had this impression, "Don't let your kids drive tomorrow because it's just gonna be super slick." And I was gonna switch out my daughter with another car that's really good on ice, and I had this impression, and so that morning, I woke up early, and I drove the roads. But in the morning, when I went out and drove the roads, it was 34 degrees, and so the roads were wet, but they weren't freezing. By the time my daughter left for school that day, temperatures had dropped and winds had picked up, and there was one spot where these trees on the south side of the road were causing the wind to sit there and swirl, and so it created a patch of about 40 yards of just pure black ice. My daughter never even saw it coming, and all she did is just slide off the road, but she hit a concrete block off the side that caused the car to flip, and, so I pulled out of 7K office like I'd never pulled out of 7K office. I had hazards on. I was breaking every speeding law. I was blowing through red lights. I had hazards on. I got on I-15 heading towards our home, and I received a phone call from my wife. That she said, "The ambulance has come. She's in the ambulance, and they're on their way." And so I cut through town. I actually found the ambulance, as I'm driving through town, and I look in my rearview mirror, I've got a police officer right behind me. Lights flaring, he's got sirens going. And I just waved out and I said, "Just come on, like, come with me. Like, I'm not stopping." And I pulled up behind the ambulance. They pulled into a secure spot. I watched them pull my daughter out of that ambulance. Um, and she was gasping for air. She had a collapsed lung. She was banged up. Her face was really beat up, and they would not let me get near her. I just wanted to I said, "Just let me near her." And then I turned around and looked and saw the police officer that was behind me, and it was Kevin Martin. This guy I went home teaching with, he was from our ward. He says, I knew, he's like, "I heard the call come over the radio that there was a wreck on 129 North, and I knew people on that road." So then he said, "When I saw your truck flying through town, I knew I wanted to just get you there safely. So I put the sirens on and I kind of guided you in." And he was there to help me till my wife got there. My brother-in-law got there. They would not let me see my daughter. They said, "Hey, she's in life-threatening situation." And they came out and they said, "She's got internal bleeding. We've got to go directly into surgery and we've got to stop the bleeding. Otherwise, she's not going to survive." And I said, "Can we at least give her a blessing?" And they said, "It's going to have to be quick." We literally walked in there. She looks at me. She recognizes me. Um, she was complaining about her back. She was really hunched because she had broken her back. She had 3 broken ribs, broken orbital bone, broken nose. And you got to remember, this is a girl that was as a sophomore in high school. She was an athlete. She played volleyball. She played for the varsity team volleyball. They did really well her sophomore year, going to state and doing very well. And she was also the sixth man coming off the bench on varsity basketball as well. 5'10", and just a good athlete. And here we are, and she just played a game 2 days prior, and now I was like, everything is changing. And the only thing I could worry about is I just prayed. I said, "Please, please, please." I said, "Heavenly Father, I need her to be here. Like, I can't have her leave this earth." And, boy, still brings back the emotions. It's your little girl. And, we gave her a blessing. And, the only thing I could think to bless her with is we bless obviously, that You're gonna be able to have strength during all this. I blessed her that she would know her mission in life. And that's all. I didn't have time to do much more than that. Um, sorry guys.
That's
Um,
all right. We're I'm a softie too, so you got me in tears over here as well.
so she goes into surgery. They remove her spleen. It's 5-hour surgery. They come out and they said, "Look, we've stabilized her. Um, she's gonna live." And I remember, I I remember praying and just saying, "Thank you, thank you." Um, the next bad piece of news we received was her back was broken, and it was right in the middle. Her vertebrae was completely crushed, and her vertebrae was literally this is her spinal cord. Her vertebrae was pushing against her spinal cord, and it was bulging out her spinal cord. And the neurosurgeon told us, he said, "Look, we're going to go in there. We're going to have to remove that vertebrae. It's completely done. We're going to have to put in a new vertebrae. But when I remove that vertebrae, there's probably going to be damage to that spinal cord." And he said, "Most likely your daughter will not walk again." That was the news we received. He says, "It's most likely that she will not walk." And I was like, "Okay, at least she's gonna be here with us." Right? But we're trying to think, how did this blonde girl here who is just kinda getting her feet underneath her, figuring out high school, doing well as an athlete, how are we gonna tell her that she's never gonna play sports again and she's gonna be confined to a wheelchair the rest of her life? We were searching ramps for our house, we were searching everything. And I remember not sleeping an entire night. I just sat there and just thought, how am I gonna tell this beautiful young lady that she can't walk?" And I'll tell you, it beats you up inside. And, so the next day, she just went at her 5-hour surgery, right? And they opened her up from her belly button to her chest bone, opened up her entire stomach. Next day, she goes into surgery number 2. Um, surgery number 2 is, let's fix the back. And that was a 7-hour surgery. Dr. Kelly was amazing, one of the top 5 rated neurosurgeons in the country. He came out and he said, "Can I speak to you and Holly privately?" I said, "Here we go." We left our family and we went and prepared for the worst news of our life. He said, we were able to open her up, we're able to decompress the spine, we're able to see the damage that was in there. And I'm like, "Yeah, we know that. Like, get to the news. Like, what's the news?" He's like, "I'm telling you." I was so antsy, I could barely even take how slow he was giving me this information. But he said, "We went in there, we decompressed the spine, we removed the damaged vertebrae." And he goes, "I got to take a peek at where that vertebrae had pressed up against that spinal cord." And he goes, "When we removed it," he goes, "I haven't seen anything like it in my life." He's like, "Usually we see some damage. We see a nick, we'll see a full severing of the spinal cord." And he said, "There's lots of opportunities for that spinal cord to be severed, especially because she was thrown from a vehicle." He said, "But her spinal cord was untouched."
What?
It was literally, he goes, when we looked at that spinal cord, it looked completely just untouched. And he was amazed. He recognized the miracle, and right then, we recognized that miracle. And to this day, I have people telling me that he told us, he says, "Not only will she walk again, she'll play sports again." And I couldn't even believe it. I couldn't even believe it. I just thought, and all I could think of is, this is a straight miracle from our Father in heaven. He answered a prayer, because everything that was being told to us was that she was not gonna walk. And if she was gonna walk, she was gonna have some type of disability, because there was probably gonna be a nick somewhere, or she would lose control of some part of her body. And, none of that none of that happened. He said, "Untouched, and she'll play sports again." And he did say, he goes, "It's gonna be 18 months to 24-month recovery." And I was like, "Wow, she's gonna miss this year and all of next year." That's gonna devastate her, because her junior year, that's a big deal. So that was some hard news we had to tell her. The next day, she went in for jaw surgery, had to wire her jaw shut, and we had, they didn't have to do surgery on her eye. That healed on its own fast enough that they're like, it's self-healing already, 3 days, and we're not gonna do any more surgery. Her nose healed on its own. We had miracles left and right. We were supposed to stay in the hospital till, well after Christmas. They let us out before Christmas, right after my birthday, in December. They let Ava out. If I would do the wound care at home. So I was doing all the wound care on his stomach. We had miracles happen there where we saw things healing faster than it ever healed. Um, to she was supposed to be on a walker for a month. She used a walker for 1 day, and she was walking in the hospital on her own strength, walking around. She has 10 screws and 2 rods in her back. Her back was fused. Um, she lost 40 pounds because her jaw was wired shut. They said 18-month recovery, 24 months most probable, but they said 18 if you work really hard at it, we can get you back in 18 months. She went into physical therapy. She would cry because she's like, "I wanna play volleyball next year." Like, it's not even possible. The physical therapist at Jeremy, at Manual Solutions, he said, "Not possible." He's like, 18 months earliest. But she just kept working at it and progressing and getting stronger and stronger, and all of a sudden, we saw things happening, just miracle after miracle happening, where she started regaining feeling in her glutes and different areas where that's the recovery spots so that she can come back and play at a competitive level. She was released to go back and play competitive sports, guys, at 7.5 months
Wow.
after surgery. Now, we had to ease her into it, right? We went from 1 month before tryouts in volleyball only being able to jump this high to be able to clear a box jump, right? 3 levels of box jumps. She was able to start doing that stuff. She came back, made first team all conference in volleyball that year, they told her not to play basketball. She wanted to anyway. They had a good year, didn't do well in basketball, but came back, and you guys, she's had 2 amazing years. She had some offers to go play volleyball somewhere, and she said, "You know what? I've got a different life mission."
That's so good.
She's studying right now to be a nurse, you know? She got a academic scholarship to go do that. Um, and she's planning to serve in other ways, which we can announce at a later time. But, she knows she's gotta give back. But I have people tell me all the time when they see the car that was wrecked, when they see how bad she was banged up, they come up to me and they say every single time, "I can't believe how lucky she was." And I say, "No, you're wrong. She was not lucky. She was extremely blessed. She is a miracle." At the volleyball banquet that year, they even called her the miracle player, right? She was able to come back and contribute at a high level at state. They went to state. Think about this. She wasn't even supposed to walk, let alone, and she wasn't even supposed to be playing that year. It was like off the cards. Every doctor, every therapist was saying there's no way she's playing volleyball. No way. She might be able to come back at the end of a basketball season to start playing volleyball at the end of next year's volleyball season. She came back a full year earlier. And we know why that happened because we've had that blessing throughout our lives, right? I had a brother that was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, was given 6 months to live. He's with us today. It's not coincidence, right? We know that miracles happen in today's age. They happen every single day around us. And one thing it's done for our family is we recognize even the smallest of miracles. The smallest ones are to us, the biggest ones, and we recognize them, and we try to point them out to all of our family. Even seeing a little heart shape in a wet mark on the concrete, we send to our family now, and we say, "Hey, guys, this is how God's trying to show his love to us." We'll see a sunset with, amazing things happening, and we see different things that happen in our life that we just say, "Hey," and we send it in the group chat, right? It's our Fam Bam group chat. "Hey, did you guys see this miracle today? God loves all of us." And so, you know, Shane, we even had another miracle that happened with our oldest daughter. We were down in Mexico, that just, you know, random thing that, you know, had another amazing miracle happen, another major medical piece that happened in our life that she was able to come back from. And we can talk about that one at another time because I know we're short on time. But
Well,
I,
I would love to hear that. And your story makes me think of John chapter 14, verse 12, where Jesus says, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do shall he do also. And greater works than these shall he do." And I'm so grateful for the power of the priesthood. I think we take that for granted. There were times in my own life where I was not around a priesthood holder and I needed a priesthood blessing. And I I'm I don't take things for granted anymore
yeah,
because things have been taken away from me. And so your story gives me faith, and hopefully it gives other people faith and hope that when we exercise our priesthood, when we exercise our faith, our Heavenly Father hears us if we are worthy and if we have faith. So, incredible story. I know um, I saw the pictures
yeah,
of the car, and I saw the pictures of your daughter in the walker, and I saw the pictures of just like 1 week to the next week, and hopefully we can pop those up here when we edit the video. Yeah, there's the car. I mean I mean, miracles are
Um,
happening. Miracles are happening. And hopefully you can send those over to David and we'll pop them up here so people can see it. But miracles are happening and they're happening all around us. And the more we recognize the miracles that our loving Heavenly Father does for us, uh, the more he gives. He's like, "Cool, thanks for noticing. You want another one? You want another one? Here's another one." And so the more we have gratitude and recognize his hand in our lives, I think the more he blesses us. So Jason, thank you so much for sharing this story. Thank you so much for taking the time with us. Um, I love stories like this. I love stories um, where if we ask with faith, we get answers. And I know people that maybe they don't go to church and maybe they're not living their life perfectly, but they ask with faith and God hears them. So it's not just about being obedient, it's having faith. And it's the faith of people. I tell people this all the time. I'm like, Jesus never healed anybody. And he always would say, "Your faith hath made you whole." It was their faith in him. And as we exercise faith in him, healings can happen. So thank you, Jason, so much for coming on. Hey, if you like this video, give it a little smash that like. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. We just hit 13,000 subscribers in less than a year. I'm so grateful for this. And listen, share this video. This is a great story of faith and the power of the priesthood. And so, Jason, thank you for sharing your heart, man. Thanks for coming on here and talking to us about 7K. And we'll spend more time in other episodes talking about 7K as well. So excited to be involved with you guys and be able to help people in that way. So, David, any final thoughts we wrap up here?
just thank you for sharing your story. It's so appreciated. There's a lot of people that need these kind of miracles, these kind of miraculous experiences to know that God's still out there and people are really striving in their lives. They don't know whether they're being heard or seen in their efforts. And when they hear stories like this, it's just it helps build that faith and that foundation. So thank you for being willing to be vulnerable.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys letting me share it. It's been great to be here today with you guys.
Awesome. Oh, David, switch it over. I'm trying to drive. He's trying to drive. Okay. Uh, um, by the time this video releases, it will be before conference. Um, I admonish all of you to watch conference. Tune in to what our prophet and our apostles and our leaders, the 70, as well as uh, all of the women that will be speaking. Um, they have a special message for us this conference. And this will be a conference to be remembered. This will be a conference unlike any other conference that we've ever experienced. I recently participated in a special state conference. David and I went to it just on Sunday. And I can tell you, it was different. And I'm confident that Jesus is coming and the way is being prepared and the Lord is hastening his work. So get yourself in order. Get your physical bodies in order. That's what I'm doing. That's one of the things I'm doing. I'm dieting and drinking stuff that tastes gross because I've let my physical body get um, a little out of balance. If your spiritual life is out of balance, get it in balance. Repentance can happen quickly. I mean, I look at Alma the Younger and I'm like, this guy was a bad dude, and in 3 days he was made whole. So eh, repent quick. The Lord forgives quick. Um, but let's prepare. Let's prepare our families. Let's prepare ourselves. And if you're married, seek to become closer to your spouse. Become one flesh. Have real conversations. Pray together. Hang out together. Laugh together. And be prepared. For the great day of the Lord is upon us. I know it. I can feel it. I can see it. And the Lord is doing, I think I love this phrase, a marvelous work and a wonder. And I will remind everybody of this. The standard of truth has been erected. No unhallowed hand can stop this work from progressing. Persecution will still rage. Fortunately, mobs aren't assembling. But this truth, the truth of God, will go forth boldly, nobly, and independent till it has penetrated every continent, visited every clime, and sounded in every ear. And the great Jehovah will say the work is done. And I admonish all of you to get involved in the work. And the work isn't just sharing the gospel with those who don't have that. While that is important, the work is perfecting the saints. The work is lifting up your neighbor. The work is saying hi to some stranger at the grocery store or buying the groceries for the person behind you or holding a door open. Let's be engaged in the work. Let's serve our fellow man. And I promise you, miracles will abound in your life. For myself, I'm Shane Baldwin. For David the Lion Douglas and Jason Arfman, we'll see you guys all next time.